Welcome to week 4 of the Churches Together in Ramsbottom Lent study course. And this week we're looking at Luke 18 verses 31 to 42 and Luke 19 verses 1 to 10. A passage from Luke 18 doesn't exactly show the disciples in a good light, does it? First of all, Jesus explains as carefully as he can that he's going to be arrested, killed, and will then rise again from the dead. The disciples still didn't really understand who Jesus was and what was going to happen and why. And then they tried to stop a blind man from getting Jesus' attention. This showed that they didn't understand the compassion that Jesus had for other people, and that as disciples of Jesus, this was a compassion that they should have shared. These two things might just seem unconnected, just random events one after the other. But I don't believe it's a coincidence that they come one after the other in Luke's Gospel. That's because it's all about being blind and then having sight restored. In the case of the blind man outside Jericho, he had his physical sight restored. But remember what Jesus said to him. He said, "Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you." The blind man kept calling out to Jesus despite being told to be quiet, because he had faith that Jesus could restore his sight. So it's his faith that allowed him to see. In the case of the disciples, they were blind to the truth about what Jesus had come to this world to do. And they were blind to the love and compassion that Jesus had for people. They said that they believed that Jesus was the Messiah, the Son of God, but they still seemed to be unable to see why he had to be arrested and then executed. And they seemed to be unable to believe that he would rise from the dead. In all fairness, rising from the dead must have seemed impossible. But if they'd really had faith in Jesus, then surely they would have believed that he was perfectly capable of achieving the impossible. So it was their lack of faith that prevented them from seeing. Even up to the time when Jesus was arrested and crucified, the disciples still didn't see the truth. So what did it take to make them finally have faith in him and to see the truth? It was two things. First, they believed that Jesus was really who he said he was when he rose from the dead and met with them and ate with them. And second, he was being filled with the Holy Spirit. When Jesus came to live in them through the Holy Spirit, as he promised he would, then the disciples' faith became unshakable. This study is supposed to be about the journey to the cross, but in fact, this reminds us that it's the journey from the cross that is arguably more important. Lots of people were crucified, but only Jesus rose from the dead and continues to live within his followers to this day. It was this that made his disciples into true disciples, able to spread the truth about Jesus to all nations. And it still does so today. Let's now look at the passage about Zacchaeus, the diminutive tree-climbing tax collector. First of all, we need to remember that people hated tax collectors in those days, and not without good reason. Tax collectors collected taxes for the Romans, so they were regarded as collaborating with the enemy, and collaborators have never been popular. And tax collectors were well known for overcharging and keeping a large slice of what they collected for themselves. This explains why Zacchaeus said, if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. So Zacchaeus was regarded as a sinner and was shunned by the community. This is why people were so surprised when Jesus said he was going to spend the day with Zacchaeus. In fact, more than just surprised, they'd have been distinctly miffed that Jesus had chosen to spend their day with who they regarded as a bad guy instead of them. As always, Jesus knew what the crowd was thinking and told them this: the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. And to think about the journey to the cross, this reminds us that the journey that Jesus made was for everyone. Not just churchgoers like you and me, not even just for people who describe themselves as Christians, not even just respectable members of our society. Everyone. We must always remember that Jesus went to the cross for everyone, including, or perhaps especially, the least and the lost.